All right, we're learning today Parshas Balak. It says, "V'yar Balak ben Tzipor, it's called Asher also Yisrael Lemori." Balak ben Tzipor saw whatever the Jewish nation did to the Amorites. So it says that Sichon and Og, they were all the nations felt that they are our security guards. They are the strongest king, and they are neighbors. They're gonna help us in time of need. And the Jews conquered them at no time. So they got scared when it come to Moab. They got scared. Vayogor Moav, mipnei ha'om oid. They got very frightened from the nation, the Jewish nation, Kirabu, because it's a big population. Vayokotz Moav mipnei bnei Yisrael. And Rashi says they got disgusted with their own life. Kotzu b'chayei, meaning they were afraid for their life. They almost was hopeless. What we're going to do? Vayomer Moav zikna Midian. So the Moav said to the elderly of Midian, Ato yilachu hakol eskol svivoisenum. They're going to uproot us. Kilchoich hashoir esierek hasode. Like the axe eats the grass of the field. It says Ubalak ben Tzipor melech l'Moav v'Yisai. Now Rashi brings the fear was this nation, Bnei Israel, will uproot us, like the axe will uproot the grass. Rashi says, Kol ma shashor melachech, whatever the axe eats, it says, Endo siman bracha. He doesn't leave, there's no blessing, meaning he uproots the whole thing. They were afraid, that's why they said, they compared what's going to happen to them, like an ox is going to completely uproot them. So there's a few questions over here. Why did they compare that to the ox? And also it says, Vayogor Moav, meaning they got scared. And the word Vayogor, in Lashon Kodesh, you could find other words. Vayar Moav. Why they choose the pasuk? Hashem choose in this parsha the word Vayogor. It's also from the language of fear, but there's other words for fear. Like I said, Vayiru, they were afraid. So it's like this. There is a concept brought in a Gemara. There is such a thing. Sometimes we don't see it, but mazalayu chazeh. The Gemara says the mazel, the neshama feel. That's why by the time of Daniel, it says the people were with him. They got scared, even though they didn't see the malach, but their mazel saw it. Their neshama saw it. They got scared. So over here also, the Moavim got scared. What they got scared of? And Balak ben Tzipor. By the way, Vayar, Balak ben Tzipor also saw, and he got scared. Doesn't say Vayishma, like the Mefarshim bring over here. He was also a big prophet. He saw something over here with his prophecy, and Moavim got scared. So what are they getting scared of? So I'll tell you what they're getting scared of. They felt Balak and the nation of Moav, they holding to something. Balak holding very very much in his hand something. He doesn't know himself what he's holding on to, but he feels it. And the nation of Moav feeling we have something over here to lose. And it's not, they're not really, it looks like on the surface they're worried about they might lose their property, that they might lose something from the land, but that's not exactly the fear. The real deep fear, they're afraid, they have a big neshama in their hands. And then there's the neshama of Rus. Rus should come from Moav. And Balak is not just a king of Moav. The Gemara in Soita said that Rus was the great granddaughter of Balak. Can you imagine? Balak is the grandfather of Mashiach. That anti-Semite, that Jew hater, he's the great father of Mashiach, because from Rus come David HaMelech, David come Mashiach, and he's the great, and he knows that again, they didn't see clear, everything is coming from there, but they feel something. And that's why it says, Vayar Balak, he saw with this prophecy, something is going on over here. And they Vayogor Moav, they're afraid, whatever, they have a big neshama in their possession, and that neshama going to be eventually like a magnet. That's why we went through all the Goluyos. It's like like a magnet attracts all the metal stuff to it. So they know we're going to go to the Golos. We're going to attract a lot of neshamas, a lot of spark that were lost in the Golos. We're going to attract them to Kedusha, and that's Vayogor Moav. And that's why that answers the question why they choose the pasuk, the word Vayogor, not Vayar or Vayiru. They got scared. Vayogor, in the word Vayogor you have the oisius of ger. They knew that the Rus eventually going to make a giyur, and they're going to lose this big neshama. They're going to lose it to the Jews. Vayogor, they were afraid of that. They didn't know what they feared for, but that was the depth of the fear was they're going to lose this big neshama Rus to the Jews. And that's why it says over here. Now they're going to clean us. They're going to uproot us. Like the ox. Why did they mention ox? As we know, that Yosef HaTzadik was compared to the ox. When Yaakov Avinu blessed Yosef HaTzadik, he told him, "B'choir shoira hodor loy." He was compared to the ox. And we know that we spoke about last week, there is Mashiach ben David, and there is Mashiach ben Yosef. So the Mashiach ben Yosef is compared to the ox. Mashiach ben compared to that says the same thing that ox, Mashiach ben Yosef, as we mentioned last week, that the fighter in us, in every one of us, the fighter fighting in the Golus, fighting for survival, not only physically, spiritually, but to stay with the program, with the Torah. The fighter in us, that's the Mashiach ben Yosef. And this is, they saw that Mashiach ben Yosef, which is throughout the Golus, fighting all the obstacles and bringing all the Nitzutz Kedusha to Klal Yisrael, they saw there's no blessing, meaning there's no blessing for them because they're going to take all this neshamas eventually and take it away and bring it to Kedusha. That's why it says they were afraid that the Jewish nation is going to come till Choy Chashoy Es Yerek HaSodeh, and that was the real, again, the fear was on the surface because of the land, of the property, but the deep inside they were afraid, and that's what happened at the end. That neshama eventually, not now in this parsha, but later on, this neshama of Ruth came out. What we see from this parsha, though, a very, very important lesson we could take from it on a practical level. The Gemara in Soita says, what taka the zchus that Balak had that the Mashiach should come from him? What zchus he had, Mashiach should come from him. So the Gemara says that he brought, the Gemara doesn't talk about Mashiach, the Gemara talk about Ruth, which is, Mashiach comes from Ruth. But the Gemara says because he brought, in this parsha we read that Balak ben Tzipor brought 42 korbanos to Hashem. Even though he was idol worshipper, when Bilam came to him, to bring Mizbeach, korbanos to Hashem, they built Mizbeach to Hashem, korban to Hashem, because he brought the 42 korbanos to Hashem, and that's who the Gemara says, Ruth came out of him, and Mashiach did not come from Ruth. Now, if you think about it, what so great about the sacrifices that Balak brought? What was the whole purpose of the sacrifices? What was the whole purpose of the korbanos? To be able to curse the Jews. So the whole idea, the purpose was corrupt, to harm a nation, to harm the Jewish nation, and for that you're saying we're giving them a reward. Mashiach come from him. Yeah, he brought the korbanos, but it wasn't a good intention. But from that we're learning that Ma'aseh hu ha'ikar. When you do something, what counts is what you do. Imagine a poor man comes to town, and he needs help. And if people are going to say, you know what, we feel so compassion for him, we feel we want to help him, but everybody talks to help him, but nobody helps him. Then comes another guy, he doesn't talk much, he doesn't say much, he's not even such a kind person, but he helps him. So the guy that helped, he was a big help. He helped, and all of those guys that speak nice, we want to help him, we want to do, they didn't help. It doesn't count anything. It's like going to the bank saying, I wish to be able to deposit $1 million in the bank. I wish. So the bank, how much credit they're going to give you? What, they're not going to say, okay, you know what, you don't have $1 million deposit, we'll give you a credit for $100. No, zero. A wish, it doesn't mean anything. What you deposit in the bank, that's what counts. Same thing, Ma'aseh hu ha'ikar. He didn't have a good intention, Balak. But the bottom line, he brought a korban to Hashem. From that, it says, came Mashiach. And we have a similar thing we see by his great-grandson. It says that Ruth was the daughter of Eglon Melech Moav. A few generations later, Eglon Melech Moav, the Gemara says Ruth was his daughter, some saying a real daughter, some saying was after a few generations of Eglon. Either way, Eglon was one of those kings that the Gemara says that Ruth came from him. And the Gemara says, and which schus that Ruth came from Eglon? Because there was a man in that time, from the Jewish nation, they were fighting Moav in the Jewish nation, and it was one man went and killed Eglon. How did he kill him? He was known to be limping. When he came to the king, he was hiding his sword, and he says, I want to talk to the king. People saw a limping man, they didn't think of anything of this guy could do any harm. They let him in, then he says, I want to talk to the king privately. People respected, everybody came out. When he left alone in the room with Eglon Melech Moav, he told him, Dvar Elokim li alecha, I have a message from God to you. When Eglon says, Eglon was Oved Avodah Zarah, he was idol worship. When he heard Dvar Elokim, you want to tell me a message of God, he got up. He says, I have to get up for this. And that moment, it says he stabbed him and he killed him. This man. They were enemies, they were fighting, okay? The point is not here. The point the Gemara says, because Eglon got up for the honor of Hashem, from that came Rus. Meaning, sometimes one little action could change a lot in the world. So again, we're talking about the king. We were in conflict with them, we were in a fight with them, in a war with them. But he got up for the sake of Hashem. That was the merit. The Maisa who Iker, that was the merit Mashiach came with. We see the same thing the end of last Parsha. The end of last Parsha, when Moshe Rabbeinu conquered the two big kings, Sichon and Og Melech Habosh. Sichon Melech Habosh. We spoke about in Shabbos that Sichon represents our speech. Sichon Melech Sichon Melech Habosh, the king of Emor. Emor is also speaking. We'll say it already, with the conquer, the speech should be holy also. Anyway, that Og Melech Habosh, that's the king of action. Where we see this? And he conquered really the action. The action should be also holy. Where we see this? Vayomer Hashem al Moshe. That's mamish the end of last parsha. After he conquered Sichon, now comes the turn of Og Melech Habosh. And Hashem tells Moshe, Al tiro oisoi. Don't be afraid of him. And Chazal telling us, Rashi brings this. Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem never told him, don't be afraid. All his wars he fought, he wasn't afraid because Hashem with him. What to be afraid of? All the wars were L'mayla me'ateva, above nature. It was a miraculous war because Hashem with him. Over here, it looks like Moshe Rabbeinu afraid. And Hashem told him, don't be afraid. Why he's afraid? So Rashi brings, he was afraid, maybe Og Melech Habosh had chusim that I cannot conquer him. What chus Og Melech Habosh has? Time of Avraham Avinu, it says, Vayova Apolit, Vayoged LaAvram, Kinishba Ochiv Loit. Apolit came, and the Gemara says, who's that Apolit? Og Melech Habosh. And he came, told Avraham Avinu, your nephew, Loit, is in captivity. And then the whole story of Avraham Avinu came and the 40 kings brought his nephew back home. Now, it says over there, Chazal telling us, why did Og was such a nice guy and was worried about Lot? Says he was in captivity, Avraham Avinu should bring him home. He didn't care for Lot, he's in captivity. He didn't care for Lot at all, he didn't care for Avraham. Chazal telling us he wanted Avraham Avinu to go to the war, and he was sure he's going to get killed over there, because there's 4 big kings, strong kings, and then he's going to be able to marry his wife Sarah. That was the intention of Og. But it didn't happen like this. Avraham Avinu conquered them, brought Lot back home. So for that chus, that he told Avraham Avinu that Lot is in captivity, and Avraham Avinu went and saved Lot's life, Moshe Rabbeinu afraid, maybe that chus he has, I won't be able to conquer it. Till Hashem told him, don't worry, yeah, it's a big chus, but you will be able to conquer it. Now think about it. So what Moshe Rabbeinu afraid? Of an action of Og, that he came and told Avraham Avinu, Lot is in captivity. But the intention of Og was corrupt. He didn't care for Lot, he didn't care for Avraham, he just wanted to kill Avraham. But the bottom line, that's true, the intention was corrupt, but the bottom line, he saved Lot through this. Maisa Iker, that's what counts, and that's Moshe Rabbeinu afraid of that schus. Because when somebody does something good, even the intention is not the best, yeah, we try to do both good, the intention, the kavona, the Maisa, but what counts at the end of the day is Maisa Iker. And for that, Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid. I told them, don't be afraid. So we see again how important is Maisa. And by the way, all these 3 things I already brought you. Balak, the did action of Karbonis, Eglon, that stood up for the sake of Hashem. Og Melech Habosh is the 3rd example, how important is action, he saved it. All of them connected to Mashiach. From Eglon and Balak comes root, from that comes Mashiach. Og Melech Habosh is also connected to Mashiach. How it's connected to Mashiach? Who did he save because of that? Og. He told Avraham Avinu, Lot. Who comes from Lot? The nation of Moab. And who comes from Moab root? It's all connected to Mashiach. It shows you that for what counts, what's going to bring Melech HaMashiach closer, it's our action. Yeah, we're not saying there's another Gemara, a whole other Gemara goes the other way around. How important is what you have in mind. But the action on its own merit is very, very important. What you do, it should be good action. Even though sometimes it's not 100% L'Shem Shamayim what you're doing. Yeah, we should try to do better with our intention, but what counts. Now I'm going to bring you one more example that's also connected with Mashiach, how important is action. Even though the intention is not the best. Yeah, we're not saying it's not important, the intention. It's very, very important. But in case it's lacking yet, or you're not holding there yet, the ikar is what you do. What counts at the end of the day, it's what you do. I one time met a businessman. He said, people have different philosophies in business too, different theories, how to do it, how to do marketing. He says, how do you know at the end of the day what's right philosophy, what's right theory to do? He says, I tell you very simple, he says. At the end of the day, he says, I'm going to count my register. He says, what I see in the register, this is the right philosophy, he says. What brings results. If your theory don't bring results, then it's not good. If it brings results, it's good. So, same thing over here. Ma'aser meaning, people might have all kind of theories, all kind of philosophies, all kind of a lot of speech. Do you did something with this or not? If you did something with it, Ma'aser obviously the Ma'aser have to be good, then it's good. One more example, with that we're going to finish. That you see how important is Ma'aser The Sfas Emes asked a question. He says, we just said that from Lot comes Mashiach. Because the nation of Moab comes from Lot, from that comes Ruth, from Ruth comes David, Mashiach ben David. He says, what as chus Lot have, Mashiach should come from him. What does chus Lot have? For Og was said already, he did he came to Avram Avinu, he came to that schus. For Balak, he brought karbonas. For Eglon, he stood up for Kavod Hashem. What did the Lord do? That in that schus, Mashiach comes from him. So he says, Fasama says like this. He says, the father of Lloyd was Horan. Horan was the brother of Avram Avinu. And he says, when Nimrod, Amraphel, which is the same person, saw that Avram Avinu is a revolutionary, that was the first revolutionary that tried to go against the whole system. Everybody's saying we don't believe in God, and comes a young man, Avram Avinu, says, no, you're all wrong, all the idols you're worshipping, it's wrong. I'm telling you there's one God, we have to worship him. Nimrod didn't like this, the king didn't like there's a new revolutionary comes to town. Told him, either you straighten out, either you say what we say, do what we do, or I'm going to kill you. Avram Avinu says, no, I believe in one God, whatever you do, still I believe in one God. So he took him and he put him in a furnace. That's one of the nisyonos of Avram Avinu. He threw Avram Avinu to the furnace. Before he threw him to the furnace, there was one brother, Horan, which was on the fence. He wasn't sure who I'm going with the revolutionary, with my brother Avram Avinu, the rest of the family, which is the idol worshippers. Asking, where are you going? Where are you holding? He told them, you know what? Let me see what happened with Avram. If you throw him to the furnace, if he gets burned, then I'm going to go with your guy. If he's God, going to save him, then I'm going to go with him. When they threw Avram Avinu over there, Hashem saved him. Hashem saved him. So says to Horan, no, where are you? I'm going with him. When he went over there, he got burnt. Says the Sfas Emes, the bottom line, even though he wasn't so sure in which way he's going to go like Avram Avinu, but he was burnt for the sake of Hashem. And since he was burnt for the sake of that Mesiras Nefesh he had, from that schus came his son Lloyd, from that Lloyd came Mashiach. So see from here again, Ma'aseh Iker, all this proofs to bring. If we do action, some people could talk a lot but do little. So, but the Iker is to do, and if we do in every action, like one little action could bring a big results, and that's what the coming of Mashiach. It depends on what we do, and that's why in that schus that the Horan was killed for Mesiras Nefesh for the sake of Hashem. From that come Mashiach. All right.
Amazing. Thank you.